My name's Susie Bailey. I'm a Medical Director for the General Practice Task Force in Derbyshire, and I'm joined by Dr. Gail Walton, who is our Fellowship Lead for the GP Task Force. We're just going to give you a short overview of the New to Practice Fellowship Scheme and how this will run in Derbyshire. And it's designed for you whether you are a potential fellow or whether you're an employer, just so you know a little bit more about the scheme and how to benefit from it and how to contact us. We've been running fellowships for the past couple of years. We've been running projects to support general practice since 2016. And our job as the JP Task Force really is to support you as an individual, to support your practice, to support your PCN, and actually to support the workforce throughout Derbyshire. We're working with the training hub in Derbyshire, Health Education Derbyshire, in order to deliver this new to practice scheme for GPs. And we think it's a unique opportunity for all new GPs to have a really smooth transition into independent practice. So Gail, as a new GP, what's in it for me?
What this scheme, which is nationally recognised, like you say, it's an entitlement for all newly CCT'd GPs. What it provides is a level of support outside of the practice team, so a bolt-on really to mentoring and coaching support, also the ability to be reimbursed, to have some backfill time, to go and look at an interest that you might want to pursue, and also stuff around management and leadership skills. This is what general practice tends to involve lifelong, so get the money to do it.
As an employer, why would somebody release a newly qualified GP that they've got, say, working in a salaried role to be on the new to practice scheme?
Yeah, you might feel a bit uncomfortable as an employer, thinking, oh my goodness, we need a clinician and I can't release them from their clinical sessions. And that's perfectly understandable. What we've got to think is that the scheme as it sits is releasing one session per week if that GP is working full-time, which is considered to be 9 sessions a week. We know there aren't many 9 session a week clinical GPs around, and therefore it's reduced pro rata, so as a ratio. So for example, if someone was working 6 clinical sessions a week, so my maths gets that to about £4,800, which goes into the practice. It provides that backfill element if you are going to release them from their existing sessions, but if it's an add-on, then the expectation would be you take off the on-cost and the remainder goes to the GP fellow. £7,200 per session per annum is probably lower than salaried GPs would expect to earn, but it's a recognition really of work being done that otherwise would be done in our own time and therefore not attract any reimbursement whatsoever.
Also, it's important to realise this is work with no clinical risk attached to it, which is why you would have a proportionally lower rate. So who's eligible for the scheme?
So if you're a newly qualified GP, and that means being qualified since August 2019, you are eligible, providing you hold a substantive post, 4 or more clinical sessions a week as a salaried GP, as a partner or as a retainer. Similarly, if you're a locum but about to take up a substantive role.
You mentioned that this is for people in substantive roles, and the national scheme does exclude locums from the new to practice scheme. But what are we trying to do in Derbyshire to make sure this really valuable part of our workforce still can benefit from the programme that we're running?
The CPD element of this fellowship scheme, you would still be able to join, but the scheme itself in terms of any reimbursement, unfortunately not.
So there is a national push back to try and extend this to include people who are locuming. And remember, if you're locuming and have a substantive role, that substantive role is sufficient to enable you to join the scheme. So we've talked about some of this. So the key elements of the National New to Practice programme are around induction, mentoring and peer support, with a programme of continuing professional development, which I've seen Gail's plan for, and actually is really exciting, really interesting things within that, which we'll talk about as we come up to some later slides. In Derbyshire, our experience of fellowships has been that project work at Praxis, PCN or Derbyshire level has been really valuable. And this is an element that we're going to try and ensure that we continue. Would you like to take us through just briefly some of the previous fellowships that we've had and how their projects have looked and how they've influenced things locally, Gail?
Our recent cohort of fellows have been really exciting to work with as individuals, and seeing them really take to a particular project area and make it their own. There's been the clinical content, so cardiology, frailty, how to set up services within communities, but the wider aspects of healthcare, so healthcare inequalities relating to screening programme uptake, a fellow looking at how to stay in touch with GPs who are away from work, either for parental leave or ill health and such like. And then HUG, the title stands for Help Us Grow Generations of GPs. So looking at that buddying, mentoring, gentle peer support across ages and stages of career in medicine.
Some of those quotes are about this being a real incentive for staying within the county, and that's really what we're aiming for. So these fairly cumbersome slides are from the national spec for the New to Practice. We're not going to labour them too much because we've said most of it. This is about induction, mentoring and peer support, coaching coming into the second year, and some real clear learning and development around practice management skills, leadership, quality improvement, particularly now things around remote working. And this will formulate a monthly CPD session, which will be facilitated, but which will be adapted to the needs of our cohort. And we're very keen to get started. So tell us a little bit about the timetable, Gail.
We're open now for registrations. That's as simple as dropping an email to the office, and the email address will come up later on. We've got an initial education launch event in November, Wednesday the 18th of November, 2 till 4 p.m, and looking initially at induction processes. Fully operational by the new year, and similarly at that sort of time, mentor matching, and then a rolling programme really throughout the year. I'll just reiterate Susie's point about whoever's watching this, if you know someone at this stage of their career, please put them in touch with us.
So quite simply, contact us now. So whether you're a PM or a partner who has a newly qualified GP and would like to find out more, or whether you are an ST3 or a newly qualified GP who would like to learn, please get in contact with us through the task force. When this video goes out, we'll also give you the dates of a couple of webinar Q&As that Gail and I will run so that people can find more information. And we look forward to enrolling as many of you on schemes as possible, because I think this is a real opportunity to make this scheme as good as it possibly can and really support our newly qualified GPs.